We're going to start this deep dive with something just terrifyingly real. Picture this. It's Hong Kong, November 2025. The Wang Fuk Court residential complex, normally just teeming with life, is a blackened, smoking ruin.
A complete disaster zone. 7 of its 8 towers were just engulfed in flames.
And this became the deadliest fire in the city's modern history. We're talking 94 lives lost, over 70 people injured.
And the official story, the investigation, it pointed straight to human failure. Gross negligence.
Right, materials so flammable they basically turned a simple renovation project into a raging inferno.
That is one narrative. It's the hard material truth. But today, our mission is to look at a second, completely separate, and frankly, much more unsettling story.
Okay.
We have source material that outlines this really complex astrological system. It's called the Pluto Phases. And it claims that the exact nature of this disaster, specifically how it was this uncontrollable fire, wasn't an accident at all.
You're saying it was predetermined?
It claims it was a predetermined cosmic fulfillment. So we're going to dive into the human tragedy, the legal side, and this astonishing claim that a fiery blueprint for destruction was already set for our time.
Wow. Okay, well, let's start with the tragedy itself, because the scale is just, it's hard to wrap your head around.
It is. This was in the Tai Po district, and the blaze just raged for a second day.
And the number of missing people was around 279.
Yeah.
Just shows you how chaotic and, apocalyptic the whole scene was.
Utterly.
So let's get into the anatomy of what went wrong on the ground. How does a fire get so big so fast? How does it take out 7 towers?
Well, the official consensus, and this was the key finding right away, pointed to one thing: the construction materials.
Okay.
You know how Hong Kong is famous for that dense bamboo scaffolding?
Of course, yeah. It's everywhere.
Well, in this case, that scaffolding plus all the construction netting they wrap around it, it basically acted like a skin for the towers. A highly combustible skin.
So it created a path for the fire.
A perfect path. A massive, uninterrupted highway for the fire to just climb and spread sideways with incredible speed.
So that external structure was like kindling, but the sources say there were deeper failures, right? Failures that let the fire actually get inside the buildings.
Precisely. And that's where the negligence comes in. Police honed in on 2 big factors.
What were they?
First, they suspected the exterior wall materials themselves just didn't meet fire resistance standards.
So substandard materials.
Substandard. And second, and this is maybe even more damning, they found these highly flammable plastic foam panels near elevator lobbies in the one tower that didn't completely burn.
Whoa.
Yeah. It suggests that this cheap, non-fire resistant stuff was used throughout the project, and it's what helped the fire spread vertically and horizontally inside, trapping people.
And that just adds another layer of horror thinking about the emergency services trying to respond to this.
It was a total hellscape for them. High temperatures, darkness, and then debris. Just massive burning pieces of bamboo and scaffolding raining down.
Blocking access.
Completely blocking access. The sources said crucial points for emergency vehicles were just unusable. They couldn't get close.
Which brings us to accountability. Because with something this clear-cut, someone has to be held responsible.
And they were, very quickly. The government moved fast. They arrested 3 men directors and an engineering consultant from the construction company.
Prestige Construction and Engineering.
That's the one. They were up on suspicion of manslaughter.
For gross negligence.
Exactly. The charges were tied directly to the failure to use proper fire-resistant materials.
And the government, the leadership in Hong Kong, they had to react system-wide.
Immediately. They announced plans to meet with the whole industry to, speed up the shift away from bamboo scaffolding to metal.
Because its flame retardancy is just so much worse.
Inferior, yeah. After a disaster like this, they just couldn't ignore that vulnerability anymore.
What you're describing is a failure of a system that is totally built on control.
That's it.
Control of materials, control of safety standards, control of everything.
And that is the perfect pivot point for us, because that material failure, that loss of control, is exactly what the cosmic prediction says was needed for it to manifest.
Okay, so let's make that bridge. We're moving from a verifiable failure of engineering
of human oversight
to this wild, complex claim that this was all foreseen by some kind of cosmic clock. So tell us about the Pluto Phases system.
Okay, so this isn't like your daily horoscope, not at all. The Pluto Phases system argues that human history is divided into these huge eras, like decades long.
And they're based on astrology.
Based on the location of a really powerful, transformative astrological point. Yeah. The phases don't predict what you or I will do. They predict the dominant theme of an era, And critically, the type of destruction that will define it.
The mechanism of destruction.
Exactly.
So what era are we in right now, according to the system?
We're firmly in what's called the Virgo phase.
A Virgo phase.
Yeah, it started around 2017, and it's set to run through 2032.
And Virgo themes are all about what? Control, order.
Meticulous order, restrictions, health, efficiency. Think about it. It resonates, doesn't it?
It really does. Trade tariffs, regulatory crackdowns, the huge expansion of health surveillance,
Right.
the 2020 lockdowns. It's all about defining and enforcing systems.
Absolutely. The whole energy of our era is the meticulous application of rules. But to get to the Hong Kong fire, we have to look at something specific. We have to look at the 8th house.
Okay, the 8th house. In astrology, that's not a good one.
No, it governs death, terror, power, and massive transformation. And the sign that rules the 8th house during any phase dictates the type of destructive force that's going to shock everyone.
So if the big scene is Virgo control, what's the sign ruling the house of destruction right now?
For our current Virgo phase, 2017 to 2032, the sign in the 8th house of death is Aries.
Aries. Okay, and Aries is?
The sign of initiation, aggression, war, and fundamentally, fire.
Okay, so this is not a subtle connection?
It is the least subtle correlation you could imagine. Aries is raw, aggressive, fast-moving energy. So the interpretation in the source material is, well, it's chillingly direct. It says that during this era, where systems of control, Virgo, are so important, the main way we'll see widespread death and terror is through fire, because of Aries.
So fire is the uncontrollable force that gets unleashed when the meticulous Virgo systems fail.
You've got it. It creates this fascinating irony. The Virgo mandate is perfect control, perfect safety protocols, like making sure you use fire-resistant materials.
But when human negligence, the company directors, the cheap plastic foam creates a crack in that system.
The pre-mandated destructive force, the violent, fast Aries fire, is what comes roaring through.
That synthesis is just...
Route.
So the system doesn't cause the accident, it just dictates what kind of catastrophic outcome you get when the rules are broken.
Exactly. And the Hong Kong fire spreading exceptionally fast, consuming buildings, mass casualties from incineration. It's the perfect, massive, violent, fiery outcome predicted for this alignment.
The sources even got into numerology, I noticed.
They did. They cite the date of the blaze, November 26, 2025. If you reduce it down, it becomes the number 1.
Which is Aries number, first sign of the zodiac.
The sign of initiation. And the suspected cause, a discarded cigarette butt, is literally a small initiating fire. The symbolism is very on the nose.
And this isn't the only example they cite for this period, is it? Since 2017, they attribute other things to this Aries energy.
Absolutely. The massive, uncontrollable wildfires we've seen globally, Australia, North America, the Mediterranean, they say that's the prime example of this mechanism at work.
But it's also about the other side of Aries aggression, weapons, things related to the head?
Correct. The sources mention the awful beheading of Chandra Nagamalaya with a machete in 2025. A weapon, an act of aggression aimed at the head, which Aries rules.
They even brought up the Alec Baldwin incident.
They did. An Aries sun sign, a weapon, a tragic death, all within the time frame. And even in pop culture, they point to Black Mirror Season 7 in 2025, which is supposedly about brain chips worn on the temple. Technology and death, right back to the head.
It's easy to see how someone could call that cherry picking.
Of course. But the system's argument is about the aggregate. When you zoom out and look at the major, shocking, destructive events since 2017, the theme of massive, swift fire is just, it's hard to ignore.
So to really test this, you have to look back. You have to see if the pattern holds for previous phases.
And that's the validation test. If the system is consistent, the mode of destruction in past eras should match their 8th house sign just as clearly. And the correlation is, it's pretty chilling.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go back to the Cancer phase. That was 1990 to 2002.
Right. And during that time, the sign ruling the 8th house of death was Aquarius.
Aquarius, that's the sign of air, technology, electricity, flight.
Exactly. Now think about the defining terror of that phase.
9/11.
9/11. Massive planes air, flight, Aquarius crashing into towers, heights, complex systems, Aquarius. It fits the destructive mechanism perfectly.
And the pop culture. I remember this. Final Destination 1 came out in 2000.
And how did it start?
An airline explosion.
Yeah.
Caused by an electrical spark.
Technology, electricity, air, Aquarius. And even in Hong Kong back in '96, there was the Garley Building fire, a terrible tragedy caused by electric arc welding sparks. Death by electricity and air was the signature of that time.
So then we move into the next phase, the Leo phase. 2003 to 2016.
Hmm.
What took over the eighth house then?
That was Pisces.
Pisces.
Yeah.
So water, oceans, liquids, confusion.
And what was the defining disaster of that era?
The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. I mean, a colossal event of mass death caused by water. You can't get more direct than that.
And it wasn't just that, it was also massive flooding events. And that theme of liquids became so strong it changed global policy.
The 2006 liquid explosives plot on airplanes.
Exactly. And suddenly there's a permanent worldwide ban on carrying liquids onto flights. Liquids became the new terror.
And even the Final Destination movies from that time were all about, what, leaking fluids, bridge collapses over water.
Water and liquids were the method of death, so the pattern is consistent. We went from death by air and electricity
Aquarius.
to death by water and liquid. And now we are undeniably in the era of death by massive, uncontrollable fire.
Aries.
And that consistency is why the system predicts that Final Destination 6, which is set for 2025, will have deaths caused by breaking glass or metal.
Why glass or metal?
Because what are they made with? Intense heat, fire. It always ties back to the eighth house ruler, back to Aries.
So let's bring this all back to ground zero, the Wang Fuk Court tragedy.
Right.
We have the Virgo phase, which is this overarching environment of control, rules, efficiency. The Hong Kong government, the construction company,
Yeah.
they failed that Virgo mandate. They broke the safety rules.
And that human failure, that loss of control with the cheap materials, it created the perfect vacuum for the destructive force scheduled for this phase to just pour in.
The violent, aggressive efficiency of that fire was the Aries energy striking, triggered by the collapse of the Virgo system.
That's the argument.
And it really leaves you caught between two terrifying ideas. Is it just the 3 arrested men and their negligence? Is that the whole story?
Or were they just the catalyst? The weak point in the armor that allowed this cosmic fire blueprint to be executed.
Whichever story you lean toward, the source material had one warning that seems to bridge both sides.
It did. It's a really potent one. It says that in this current phase, everything you misuse will be taken away from you. That includes technology.
The misuse of construction technology, the misuse of safety regulations, the misuse of cheap, flammable materials.
It all led directly to the fiery consequence that was, by one measure or another, predicted.
Which raises this huge question about why our world feels the way it does right now. This obsession with control, with rules.
Right. If this phase is defined by control, and you see people obsessively controlling their work, their data, their lives, maybe it isn't just a cultural trend.
What are you suggesting?
Well, this is the final thought we have to leave you with. Are all these intense rules and regulations, this heightened focus on safety like Hong Kong immediately pushing for metal scaffolding, are these things a necessary, maybe even subconscious defense mechanism?
And defense against what?
A defense against an era where any failure, any act of negligence is destined to manifest violently and with terrifying efficiency through fire.
Was the tragedy in Hong Kong just human error? Or was it human error colliding with a fiery, predetermined cosmic blueprint? We'll leave you to weigh the hard facts against the startling claims of the Pluto phases system. Until our next deep dive, be well.